our next orator, Timothy Wise.
I am happy to join with you today. What will go down in history as the greatest demonstration of freedom in the history of this nation. 50 years ago, these historic words spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would represent an end to racism and segregation and a start to African American growth. But 50 years later, is the Negro free? If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were here today, we would see the problems of his past still exist in the present. Racism runs rampant, violence is spreading, and equality is all but illusory. But Dr. King would smile as he would realize that civil disobedience is about Americanist baseball. And civil disobedience is alive and well, that we are all rebels with the cause. We would reflect on the history of civil disobedience, from the Boston Tea Party, to the Underground Railroad, to the civil rights movements including Rosa Parks, the Woolworth Counter-Protest, and the March on Montgomery. He would speak of the Occupy Wall Street movement. He would quickly learn of young Trayvon Martin, how after he was murdered, people marched in his name. Dr. King would be proud to see his Alpha brothers in attendance today. But he would quickly applaud the greatest accomplishment for any black man to date. We have finally heard a person of color into the White House. But all is not well in America. Dr. King stood for equality, civil disobedience, and nonviolence. But violence is spreading. In Dr. King's time, there was the Vietnam War, and in 1968, there were 14,000 American casualties. In the final 3 years of that same war, 32,000 were left bleeding on the ground. Since Vietnam, we've had 3 major wars: Operation Desert Storm, Operation Enduring Freedom, and the Iraqi Freedom War. But in the first month of the Iraqi Freedom War, we had 417 U.S. casualties. In the 1960s, we fought to keep Vietnam free, but at what cost? It was the longest war in U.S. history. We went overseas to enforce freedom when we can barely keep freedom in our homes. Which raises the question, would Dr. King approve of our continuing wars? In addition to nonviolence, Dr. King stood for equality. He stood on the steps of Lincoln Memorial and cried, "I have a dream that one day this great nation shall rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." But many people will go to jail, stay longer than they deserve. Today in the United States, we've had the lowest crime rate since gas is 29 cents a gallon. But for some strange reason, we have the highest incarceration rates ever. The U.S. has 5% of the world's population, but for some strange reason, we have 25% of the world's felons. Many people in urban areas are registered felons for life, but what is a felon? Well, a felon is someone who's found guilty of committing a serious crime. But felons are treated no different than the black people who suffered from Jim Crow. Felons have their right to vote revoked, are automatically excluded from juries, are legally discriminated against in housing, employment, access to education, and public benefits, just like their parents and great-grandparents in Dr. King's time. But the most disturbing part of all this is, we have more African Americans in jail now than we had slaves in 1850. And African Americans constitute 1 million of the 2.3 million people incarcerated. Simply, this would be titled the New Jim Crow. The New Jim Crow is the original Jim Crow's son. His father has taught him how to control African Americans in a much more silent way. Instead of coming out and proclaiming himself as a law, he hides in the shadows. He has also taught his son that the key to controlling black people is in prison. The New Jim Crow makes it easier to be sent to prison, gives you a longer sentence. When you get out, you're a registered felon for life, and you suffer consequences similar to the Jim Crow laws. The New Jim Crow is a silent killer and a force to be reckoned with. But Dr. King would smile and say, "I am not afraid." Dr. King would see the world around him and say, "We have come far, but we still have far to go." He would march in the streets once more and fight for what he has been trying to achieve his whole life. He would quote the 44th President, Barack Hussein Obama, and say, "Yes, we can." He would ask his brothers and sisters to rise up and keep fighting. He would say, "I know we can do it, because I still have a dream." And I believe in his dream too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You represent.
Our judges are continuing their scoring.
So as we say, there are all winners today, but we will be recognizing a number of places. So anyway, Alvin Lewis. Coming up, Alvin Lewis, please come up. Isaiah Dulce. Nazaria Young Warren. Richard McLeese. Our third place winner is John Adams. Our second place winner is Josiah Cooley. And our overall first place winner is Mr. Timothy Watt.
Don't you your boys represent?
Congratulations.
You heard me when I said it, right?
Mr. Watt.
Oh, yeah.
May have gotten a couple of extra
Absolutely.
points for phone time.
That's cool.
A future alpha.
To you, Mr. Wise, the Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha would like to present you with the first Jim Day Wilson Cup. Congratulations.
This cup will be displayed at Renaissance Middle School in Montclair, New Jersey for 1 year.
Once again, if you could give a round of applause to all the winners. There are no and the certificates that these young men have, they will also be receiving monetary awards as
While our young men take their photo opportunity with our chapter photographer, we're almost finished with our program. But next we will have, as we always do, our fraternal hymn, followed by the benediction. So please.
Picture, group picture.
Oh, and a group picture as well. So if you just take your seats and keep your seats just for